Have you ever looked at a tree and wondered, how big could this thing become? Over a lifespan far longer than my own, what great height and girth could an individual plant achieve? What makes one individual struggle while another may become the largest of its species? To look upon a large or even a champion tree is to bring these questions into sharp focus. With it comes a great sense of awe at the simple magnificence of being in the presence of such a massive being. I use the word champion tree there, so let me explain that term. A champion tree is the largest individual of a given tree species in a given location, such as a state, county, or country. I want to take you along to visit a few of my very favorite big trees and ponder the question, what makes big trees so fascinating? The first tree we will visit is a Morton Bay fig tree in Santa Barbara, California. The story told with this tree is that it was a gift to a young lady from an Australian sailor, which actually makes total sense because this species, Ficus macrophylla, is actually native to Eastern Australia. This tree was first planted around 1876 and then moved to the current location around a year or so later. Over the next 100 years, this tree would grow to a magnificent size, and in 1970, it was designated a historic landmark. While this individual is not actually the champion for the species in California, according to the California Big Tree Registry, I believe it is among the largest individuals. This tree is almost shocking in how starkly it contrasts its environment. While the fence around this tree is definitely supposed to protect the tree, I can't help but think it looks a bit like a cage. This tree is surrounded by streets, a train station, and a massive wall for Highway 101. It's not exactly the respect you would expect for a historic landmark, but at least this tree is still standing. I think this sharp contrast is part of why I personally love this tree so much. Coming upon it, you start to think about time in a different way, and imagine the girl that planted this back in the 1800s. What did this place look like back then? Did she know that this tree and planting it and then transplanting it might be her biggest legacy? And despite the air pollution, the cars zooming by at freeway speeds, the train station, the massive wall, all the paving, the fence, this tree is just growing on. And I find that personally very inspiring. I don't know. It just feels like perseverance. I know that's anthropomorphizing the plant, so maybe not ideal, but it's persevering. And I love that. It's very inspiring to me. One more note on growing this species, just in case you are now inspired to do so. Be very aware of where you plant this species, as you can tell it gets very large, and in particular the buttressing roots can totally ruin paving. So make sure you just give it a lot of space if you want to grow this species. This is actually another reason why I think champion trees and large individuals of trees are so important, is that they tell us the true size extents of a species so that we can plant them in the proper location. Who knows if this massive fig specimen would exist today if it had not been transplanted from its original planting location. The second tree I want to show you is actually the champion of the species, which is very strange and interesting, and let me explain why. This is Hesperocyparis macrocarpa, the Monterey cypress, and it is located in moist coastal California. According to the scoring system for champion trees, which examines a couple of different data points, height, trunk circumference, and crown spread, this tree has a score of 717.15 points. The next largest tree I could find reference for is in New Zealand with a score of 706 points. This makes me believe this is not only the California champion of the species, but actually the world champion of the species. Now, note the common name, Monterey cypress. This species has only 2 natural populations located either on or near the Monterey Peninsula in California. This is a tiny, tiny range, and it's actually supposedly the tiniest range of any North American native conifer. Other than being so restricted, this native range is very interesting when you consider the fact that the champion, the tree that I'm showing you, is located near the town of Pescadero, around 50 miles north. It begs the question, why is the largest individual not located in the native range of the species? So while so restricted in the wild, Monterey cypress is actually planted all over the world in mild and humid climates. because it has a dense growth habit and a fast growth rate. So essentially it makes a great windbreak. Additionally, there is strong evidence to suggest that the current native populations of the Monterey cypress are actually relics of a once much larger native spread for the species. This individual causes reflection on both of these points. While I do not know the history of this specific tree, I strongly suspect it was planted here along this road. Individuals like this tree tell us more about a species than we would know if we just studied it within its native range. To see that a species thrives even better in this location outside of its native range tells us a lot more about what characteristics cause this species to thrive, which to me is very interesting. This individual really makes you question, why is this species not natively present here, only 50 miles from the actual native range of the species, especially if it grows so well here? The fact that a single planted individual can trigger these questions about the ecology, biology, and history of an entire species is to me one of the greatest contributions that horticulture can make. And hey, on a simpler note, it is very cool to be standing underneath a world champion tree. Giant trees remind me to find awe in the simplest of things. This last tree I'm going to show you is actually a group of trees, and none of them is a champion. But together these individuals form one of my favorite experiences, which is walking or driving down this big allée of blue gum eucalyptus. These are blue gums, like I said, Eucalyptus globulus, and they are another Australian species, one that actually has a really long and interesting history in Californian horticulture. A few years ago, I found a Sunset magazine compilation of articles from the early 1900s, and one document in there was an ad touting a fortune for you in eucalyptus, combined with an article called Eucalyptus, Hickory's younger brother. While this article notes these trees' introduction into California in 1856, and another source notes 1853, eucalyptus would not become popular in California until the eucalyptus booms of the late 18 and early 1900s. The trees were touted as excellent fuel, timber, and ornament. Little did these Californians know this species can actually be invasive given the right conditions. I hope to make another video essay on the history of eucalyptus in California because it's very interesting, but that will be for another day. Based on the dates of the eucalyptus boom, these trees are probably at least 100 years old. Walking down this row of trees connects me to those earlier days, and it's actually personally relevant to me because my first ancestors that came to California came here around that time. It makes me again reflect on legacy. The girl that planted the fig, my ancestors. It makes me wonder, what will my legacy be, and what do I want it to be? For this video, I was planning to visit the champion Brachychiton rupestris, or Queensland bottle tree, which was located on a street in Cupertino, California. I did a little reconnaissance looking at Google Maps Street View to see if I could find the tree, and I did find the location where it was, but it turns out that the tree is gone. Despite the sadness I felt knowing that this tree is gone, I understand that trees come and go, and it is part of their magic that they are ephemeral like that. A couple years ago, I actually planted an individual of the same species in an abandoned street planting strip, and someone recently sent me a picture of the tree, which I have completely neglected due to moving away from the area. But reflecting on that and the fact that the champion that did exist is now gone, it makes me wonder, someday will my tree that I planted become the champion? And that makes me think I should start planting more trees because that is such a cool legacy to have, in my opinion. There's a new leader taking over from this one that died. This one. So cool. If you want to learn more about champion trees, I will link some great resources in the description, along with all the resources that I used to research this video. I want to give a special shout out to one resource I used, which is the Urban Forestry Ecosystems Institute, which hosts the California Big Tree Registry, both of which are created by some of the people that taught me much of what I know about plants and got me into big trees in the first place. But I just want to give them a special shout out because that was one resource I used a lot while researching this. It's a great resource if you're interested in big trees in California or trees in general in California. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings about big trees. I hope that you can go out into the world and find inspiration in things such as trees or giant trees, randomly massive trees. So thank you again for watching this video, and I will see you soon. Cheers!